Okay, so hello everyone, and welcome to this session about the price volatility in the southeastern market. I am an MP from Romania, the Vice President of the Committee for Industries and Services. And the topic that we are discussing today is indeed very important in our region. Even last summer, we had some prices that were even 50 to 100 euros per megawatt hour upper than the average in Western Europe. And of course, there are some measures that should be taken, especially if we want to continue with the integration in the electricity, European electricity market, and to have affordable prices, green energy, and of course, secure energy. There are several solutions that we can point to, and of course, investments are really important. Then interconnections that stop in Slovakia and Austria, and most of the time the energy from Western Europe doesn't really reach our region. So that we have more competition and prices that are fair to the consumer. During the crisis, the energy crisis, of course, there were some measures that were taken quite similar in many European markets, especially on reducing taxes in the invoices for the consumers. In Romania, we had a strong approach to cap the prices. Even now, we have this system, and we are looking into getting out of it this summer in June. Of course, with taking care of the vulnerable consumers, but also we are looking at the industry and how to ensure that our energy-intensive industry has fair prices and that we don't affect the competitiveness of our economy. There are, of course, some measures to solve the imbalances in the market. To, of course, look at storage, and we have European funding. We have also some fiscal facilities to encourage storage, and some legislation that was adopted at the end of last year. So hopefully this summer we will not have the same price volatility as we saw during the last season, last summer. But of course, we will be happy today to moderate this session and to learn from the experiences of other countries in the region, and to look forward and to see what would be other approaches in order to solve this prices volatility in our region. So I hope to see very fruitful discussions today, and maybe come up with some solutions and conclusions by the end of the debates. And I'm very happy to moderate this session with Rebeka from Hungary, our neighbor country. So Rebeka, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Cristina. I think these were very important words, and welcome everyone here in this session. I think our region, this Southeastern Europe, is quite has quite a lot of characteristics, and we are quite kind of different from Western Europe in a lot of points. I think, oh yeah, I forgot to push my microphone, but I hope you heard what I was saying. So I think our region is characterized by external shocks as well and structural weaknesses. And of course, we have quite strong geopolitical tensions. And as we will see in this session, the energy crisis caused by the war in Ukraine and the impact of climate crisis on energy production and the storage are really serious problem in our region. Our Hungarian government keeps referring to the war in Ukraine, which is, of course, a very serious threat for the whole energy supply of Europe. But what I feel that also politically, this whole geopolitical situation makes it even more difficult to this region particularly to switch properly to the renewable energy and to be totally independent from the gas, natural gas from Russia, but we were relying on for such a long time. And I think another issue is here that the very limited cross-border integration. And as we heard, integration would be really important, and cooperation between the countries and developing the electricity grid is really important to shift to renewable energies. And I think it's quite a weak point in this region. So I hope we can speak about it and we will learn a lot about it in this session. So let me please introduce briefly our first speaker. She's Inna Sovsun. She's a member of parliament for the Golos party in Ukraine, and she's also a senior lecturer at the National University of Kyiv Mohyla Academy. And previously, she was vice president at the Kyiv School of Economics and even first deputy minister of education and science, where she led higher education policy and EU cooperation. So please, Inna Sovsun, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for inviting me and for having this discussion. So if you don't mind, I think I will start briefly by explaining the whole energy situation in Ukraine. I think that that there is lots of discussions about that, but just to present very briefly what is going on there, and then to address the issue that we are here to talk about, and that is the situation with the price volatility on our markets. So as you all very well know, Ukrainian energy system has of course been very strongly damaged because of the Russian attacks, and those attacks are ongoing right now, unfortunately, and we of course had a very significant decrease in our generation capacity. We used to have excess electricity production. We are now we now basically have to import electricity in some hours during some periods of times because lots of our generation has of course been destroyed. Luckily, throughout winter, Ukraine did not. Let's put it this way: we thought it's going to be much more difficult, but Ukraine did successfully made it through this winter despite those continued Russian attacks. There were some electricity supply limitations which we had to impose, particularly on business across the country, and for some consumers on the east and a little bit on the south. But in general, I'll tell you this, compared to what we feared, that might be the case of going for hours without electricity. That was not the case. I had a couple of days when I didn't have electricity for some hours at my place, but generally speaking, it was much better than we expected. And I think that the first element that contributed to that was, of course, that we managed to preserve our energy system better because of the air defense system and missiles that were supplied to Ukraine by our partners, for which we are immensely grateful. And the second factor was a relatively mild winter, which kept the peak loads on the system lower than it could have been. Another factor another kind of big development that we're seeing in Ukrainian energy market is development of own generation by the consumers. So what we did develop some legislation about a year and a half ago, which basically stimulates households, businesses to build up generation capacity for themselves, but then they can also save it to the grid. So we introduced the whole idea of prosumers, active consumers of electricity. And as of right now, the recent data that we have seen in the past year, consumers have installed about 900 megawatts of solar generation and over 800 megawatts of gas-based flexible generation. So this is, of course, a rather positive development because of the lack of generation in general. Any generation which has been installed is something that's a great development for all of us. The problem is that most of these capacities remain isolated from the grid, so they operate solely for self-consumption for those businesses and households. And our big challenge right now is how to integrate those consumers into the synchronized network. There is a discussion in Ukraine about that right now. So what do we do when there are lots of consumers who have their own production and we don't know when are they going to use their own panels for generation of electricity, or when they're going to use electricity from the grid? That's growing to be quite a big challenge for Ukrainian energy system. Today, we are end of March, so today Ukraine has entered a period of lowest electricity consumption and high solar generation. It's very sunny in Kyiv today. So we are seeing new challenges compared to the winter period right now. So we are in the recent week or two, we have seen a significant daytime energy surplus and shortages during peak hour demand, particularly in the evening. So we need electricity in the evening. We have too much electricity as of right now during the daytime. Price volatility in Ukraine's electricity market is increasingly aligning with European markets. However, we do have a problem with the price caps on the whole-scale market, and they prevent larger fluctuations. So I understand that the discussion here is how to limit the fluctuations, but in Ukraine's case, they're being basically administratively limited, and that's not an ideal solution. I'll put it this way as well. So what we need is to set up the proper price signals that would help us attract more investments in critical technologies such as flexible generations, and something that has been mentioned by the previous speakers is better energy storage systems. That's not yet there in Ukraine, and literally the day before yesterday, we had a big discussion in the committee about how to address those challenges. Another challenge we are seeing is as I mentioned, because of this rapid growth of small-scale solar generation among consumers, this development has further complicated the balancing of the grid, because these installations are not dispatchable and appear in the system as a drop in demand rather than controllable supply. So that also kind of adds to the volatility in the system in terms of supply and demand. So as we are seeing it right now, where we need to move forward is of course the full European integration. We are working on that constantly. We need to liberalize the market of course, to try to manage the prices, but not by administratively limiting the prices, because then we end up in situations when let's say businesses are willing to buy electricity and they're willing to pay for that, but there are limitations on the price, and then they simply cannot buy that electricity that they need. We are also, of course, very much interested in expanding cross-border electricity trading capacity, because right now Ukraine can only sell up to 550 megawatts of electricity. We would be interested in having a bigger cross-border capacity. And of course, there is discussion about those removing of the price caps so that they can send better, clearer investment signals for both energy producers and consumers, so that we can reduce the need for regulatory intervention. Of course, in Ukraine, the situation is very volatile as it is, not just in terms of price. And the situation might shift again by the summer. For instance, one of the biggest challenges for the summer is going to be the fact that nuclear power blocks are going to undergo maintenance. and then this will mean that they will further strain the grid balancing. And Ukraine will once again rely on electricity imports to a big extent. That's something that we expect to happen over the summer months. So the situation is indeed changing very, because of the seasons change, but also because we don't understand how much generation we will have in the future and how much generation will be destroyed and so on. But we hope that we would be able to build more generation in the country and to have a more flexible generation, because now our big challenge is suddenly that we have a bit too much solar and we don't know how to balance that properly. So I think that would be it from me. I don't know if I answered all the questions, but I tried to present the situation in Ukraine and how we see it from here. I'm here with you for the next 30 minutes, so if there will be any questions to me that I can answer, I'd be happy to.
Do a first round of questions because we leave.
Yes, I think that will be. So thank you, Ina. And yeah, I wanted to say that we feel for you and everything. So I can imagine the situation must be really difficult. So if there are any questions from the audience, I think, or from Cristina, whatever, I mean, it's a good situation to ask now, as Ina might leave later on.
No.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yep.
Again, I forgot to turn on my microphone.
So thank you, Ina, for your perspective from Ukraine. I was wondering if you have an impact analysis of what will be the situation next summer, as you said that the nuclear power plants will be out for maintenance. So if you have an image on what will be the impact on the prices in the region.
No, I haven't seen. There is a very short answer, which you probably will not be very happy about. No, we haven't done that analysis. And frankly speaking, in Ukraine, there is a stronger focus in analyzing the supply side of things, so not the prices, but rather where we will get electricity from. So I think that is because of our situation, that is what we are mostly concerned about. But no, I haven't seen such an impact analysis. I just know for sure that everybody understands we will have to import more from our partners. That is probably something that to the neighboring countries especially is important to know, that we will buy more electricity over the summer months because of the maintenance of the nuclear power plants.
Thank you.
Julian. Just a quick question. A quick question for me. Do you have enough cross-border capacity for import of electricity in sort of extreme case of destruction of national generation capacity?
So the cross-border capacity is kind of it's a twofold question. On the one hand, that there is a technical part of that, right? So from the technical perspective, how much electricity can go both ways, and then how much is allowed to be sold one way or another. And the biggest challenge for us right now is we can import 2.2 gigawatts, if I'm not mistaken. So import is okay, but the regulatory cap on the export is very low. So we are interested in expanding the export from Ukraine to Europe so that we can sell more if we have excess electricity in some hours, for instance. So that is the issue that our regulator is now talking about, is increasing the export capacity. So technically we can do it, but there is a regulatory cap which is set by the European side.
Yeah, and yeah, I also have a question rather about you a little bit you mentioned, but I have a question about the price sensitivity of the people in Ukraine. So I guess at least in Hungary, energy poverty is a serious question, and I assume that probably in Ukraine the situation can be similar. So how can you cope with it in such situation?
So if you look at the households, the price for the households is regulated by the regulator. So it's it's a specific price which is set. It doesn't, and actually that is one of the things that people are discussing, because at least up until last June, the price was set very low, and then people didn't pay that much attention to, I don't know, preserving energy, using less of that, and so on and so forth. There is some differentiations for the households. You can, if you have a specific, I mean, technically you can pay a smaller price for night hours. I have that at my place, for instance. But one of the problems right now is that we actually need people to use, because the idea was we want people to use more electricity during the night hours. But right now, the challenge is we actually need people to use more electricity right now when the sun is up. But the price signals are on right now, because we actually basically with this price tariff regulation that we have, people are actually being encouraged to use electricity in the nighttime. So one of the things that we were discussing with the regulator the other day was maybe trying to develop a new system where we will, at least for the summer season, we will try to suggest a different model where people will be encouraged to use electricity during the hours of peak generation, and in the summer, of course, that will be during the daytime. So that is under discussion, but in general, the prices for electricity are rather regulated for the households. For the businesses, I would say that their biggest concern is not so much the price, but rather energy security. So one of the reasons why, because we were discussing that both with the regulator, with the ministry, and we were discussing because businesses now are still building lots of solar, which is growing to be a big problem for Ukraine because it is not integrated in the grid and so on and so forth. And we were discussing, can we stimulate them to build something else, or not build solar because it is not very much needed at this point. But the problem is that people are building that to make sure that if there is a blackout, they will still have electricity. So they understand they might overpay for that, but if you need electricity very much, you will still do that, even if it's not economically smart. But because people are so scared of the blackouts, that they still build some capacity if they have the money. It can be businesses. It can also be some critical infrastructure. For instance, hospitals. They're all now looking for opportunities to get some funding to set up the solar panels and storage, because for the hospitals, it's of course critically important to have electricity supply all the time. So price sensitivity in Ukraine, of course, is there, but I would say that the biggest thing that people care about is ensuring that they actually have electricity. So security of supply is the biggest issue. So this kind of drives their decisions to a bigger extent than the prices. Of course, prices are, people are looking at the prices and so on and so forth. But in our situation, the biggest challenge is security of supply. And that is why, even if the prices will be, let's say, even if buying electricity from the grid is going to be very cheap, we believe that many businesses particularly will still build the additional energy generation just because they are scared of the blackouts.
All right, thank you.
Do you want to go?
So just one last question for me. You mentioned the deregulation of the market, and that you are looking into liberalizing the market. And I was wondering if you have a calendar for that, and if you are looking also at the import capacity, and if it has an influence in this calendar. Thank you.
Yeah, we are looking into that. We hope that the regulator will present some sort of model next week. That might be a bit optimistic. They said that they will try to, but it's something that they're looking into right now. So they're looking into different models of how to fix this problem with the price caps, which are becoming a problem for the businesses, for the industry in particular. So I think that the timeline is now. So we are in that process right now. It's not something that we are planning to do in a year or something. We are discussing that very intensely right now. I mean, it's not guaranteed that they will actually do that, but the discussion is very intense and going on right now. So we hope the regulator promised the committee that they will present some sort of model next week.
Well, I think that's
Julian.
all, and thanks a lot, Ina. Really, it was very nice to have you here, and let's continue with the next speaker, Cristina.
Thank you, Rebeka. It's now my turn to introduce the next speaker. Julian Popov is senior fellow at Strategic Perspectives and former Minister of Environment of Bulgaria. Julian, you are an influent voice at the European level regarding energy. And I would like you to share with us the Southeastern Europe power system, in your view, if it has the tools to solve the actual pricing crisis. Thank you.
Thank you, Cristina. Thank you.
Just tell me next if you want to switch.
Okay. So next, I'll start with the big picture. So Europe has three priorities at the moment: security, competitiveness, and net zero. We hear quite a lot of statements that, well, it's not time for climate policies now and so on, but it's very clear that we stand with them, and there is no retreat. Even in some areas, the ambition is growing. Two general questions: how we combine these priorities, and how can Central and Eastern Europe contribute to that? So the next one, please.
Yeah.
So several problems that the Southeast Europe faces. Not all of them are unique for Southeast Europe. Some are more pronounced in the region. Some are shared across Europe. I mean, Southeast Europe has a problem with energy efficiency. And energy efficiency, everybody talks about energy efficiency. What a lovely thing that is, but the fact is that politically and technically we are not doing enough. The high energy prices, volatility and unpredictability is a problem that we share. As Cristina said, in Southeast Europe, the high energy prices seems to be higher than the rest of Europe. Problem that we discussed earlier is the fact that merit order phenomenon that gas determines the power price, including in countries where there is a very low level of gas generation. I mean, Bulgaria almost does not generate electricity from gas, but gas still determines the price because of the integration of the markets. Major problem is the lower wind development, especially in Bulgaria, in Western Balkan, in Hungary. Is that the fire?
No,
The Russians
just
coming?
I have no idea what that is.
Here.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, that was a few.
Okay, I can shout, but
We can hear you. I think.
so there is a bottleneck in the grid bottleneck between Southeast Europe and Central Europe, and that is a problem. Southeast Europe is very valuable with high hydro potential. That's not recognized on European level, but it's something that hydro potential could serve the whole of Europe in several ways. It is developed significantly, but not enough. It could be developed further. And also when we talk about Southeast Europe, we must talk also about Western Balkans. I mean, Western Balkans are right in the center of Europe, and we just exclude them because they, I don't know, they're not one of us somehow. I don't know why. But in energy terms, it's very important to get them. They have very, very low, almost nothing developed in renewable energy. And this has an impact on the region. And of course, the delayed market coupling. When we talk about modern energy system, modern energy, we need a lot of research, development, innovation. Southeast Europe is very, very low on R&D spending. Some countries almost zero, other countries touching 1% of GDP or staying lower. This is a serious problem. So the next one, please. So the first question that I asked at the beginning, can we combine somehow the security, the competitiveness, and the net zero? We know that in these three areas, we have to put a lot of money. And as Teresa said earlier, I want to talk about investment, not spending. And indeed, a lot of this spending is investment. We're talking now about raising defense spending from around 2% of GDP to 3% and above. Some countries like Poland, they are already above 4%, Baltic states as well. But this is a pressure on all countries of Europe. Competitiveness needs investment. Draghi suggests 800 billion annually in additional investments, and this, at the same time, the net zero target needs investment again. And one of the things that I think I don't have a solution on that, but I think it's very important to start debating whether defense competitiveness and net zero target could have combined investment. Clearly, in research and development, pilot deployment have overlapping. Artificial intelligence, process optimizations, quite a lot of technologies related with energy efficiency, solar batteries, and so on. They have dual use, so, and also are subject of the main competition between EU and China and EU and the United States. So one thing that we probably need to do is to start rapidly increasing renewable energy, storage grids, all that for energy sovereignty. And again, this is the question of overlapping of the big spendings that we're facing. So the next, please. So a couple of words about gas. I mean, I heard yesterday and today quite a lot of words about, okay, we have to sort of improve the gas market. We have to, I mean, I think we have to be more radical about gas, because gas is price setter, it's setting the price, it's pushing the price up. It is the main factor for the high price of electricity. Obviously, if we just take gas out of the picture, that will not work. So the question is how, in a smart way, to deal with this problem. So one thing that I think is important to understand is that this notion that was promoted by the gas industry, that gas is a transitional fuel, is simply wrong. I mean, it's wrong. Data show it's wrong. It's not my wish or some kind of a climate activism. It is wrong. We see in most countries that renewables and energy efficiency replace coal, not gas. There are some exceptions when the transition is made very, very rapidly, usually politically, but generally that's the case in the last 10 years. So there is another strange thing in the gas. I mean, gas is pushing the prices up. So it has high volatility, it is a security risk. So all the reasons to be somehow, from taxing point of view, punished, but it's subject of low taxes. Electricity is highly taxed, so this discrepancy must be addressed somehow. Gas also has to be recognized as a security risk, and not only Russian gas. I want to underline that. I mean, we see what is happening in the US, and there is not a lot of gas coming from brilliant democracies, and so for that reason also we have to reduce gas use, and it is a fact that gas is declining. I mean, in the last 5 years in a row, European economy is growing, not dramatically, but it's growing. Gas for 5 years in a row is declining in the European Union. It's very interesting about gas, which is now moving out of the baseload generation role into the balancing niche. So gas peakers, there is a lot of talk about how gas is complementing renewables. And yes, until a year ago, that was kind of convincing story. But what we are seeing now is a sudden mass entrance of grid-connected batteries, and batteries are starting to compete head-to-head with gas for that particular role. So it's very interesting to follow that, but also to use this trend in order to reduce the role of gas in pushing the prices up. Also, storage, hydro, and batteries, these are factors for lowering the price and volatility. So especially for Southeast Europe, with lots of hydro combined with batteries, which are growing now, we see that this could be a force that will lower the role of gas, and we have to think also about creating a competition for gas, like with batteries, but also in other areas. I mean, we heard an interesting presentation yesterday about heat pumps. There are very many other technologies that can basically replace gas. We move to electrification. That could help if this process is managed properly to lowering the prices. So the next one, please. Let's see what I've. So what's the role of Central and Eastern Europe in this whole picture, and what we can do? So one thing that I think is quite important is regional cooperation, especially on grids. Everybody recognizes it, but on many others. We have the CSEC. It is the recognized region, energy region, and coalition of the energy ministers of the region, including Ukraine, by the way. This has to be activated. It is active, but not enough. The gas, the low gas use in some countries could contribute, like Bulgaria, for instance, has very low gas use. And the potential of something that's not recognized for Southeast Europe is that it has wind potential, which is ridiculous. It has high wind potential. So solar potential is obvious, and hydro potential. These are things that Southeast Europe can contribute actually to the overall picture of energy prices. We need to expand the power market areas, which means integrating properly Western Balkans. They are not properly integrated, they are not coupled. There is an interesting thing, I'll show a picture later, about the North-South and Southeast-Northwest climate complementarity. That means that when in one end of Europe there is wind, quite often in the other end there is no wind. There are several very interesting studies in that area. Also, another thing that Southeast Europe is quite interesting with is the proximity to other energy systems. And we have to start thinking about the future and thinking about new market areas.
Julian.
Sorry to interrupt you. The last speaker needs to leave. Yeah.
Could we do a quick switch and bring you then back in?
Okay.
Yeah.
We've just seen her and now
Yeah,
that she
because
has
we
to
are
leave.
behind schedule and
Yeah.
Yes,
oh
yeah,
my
Yeah,
God.
sorry guys, but I think it's just too late now. Thanks so much, but I think it makes really no sense. I send the slides, but I just have to leave now. Very sorry.
We have to
Because it was
now.
already late. Yeah, I'm very sorry for that. No, I can just maybe say 2 words if you want. And sorry, Julian, to interrupt here. On what Ina said on these 550 the imports to Ukraine, maybe on some 2-3 points I can just add my perspective if you want in 2 minutes, but I cannot show my presentation now. So there was this point on Ukraine joining the market coupling. 2027 is the date, and these 550 megawatt imports allowed to Europe, they really depend on the technical limits of the European system, and there needs to be some fixes also on the border of Spain, Italy, etc. That's not only Ukraine related. This is only what I wanted to say very shortly. But I think I just share my presentation, and I wish you guys a great panel. And Julian, presentation is amazing. I hope we can receive it as well.
Thank you. Sorry that we want to say your, but we already.
No problem.
Sorry, Susanne,
Thank
we
you,
just
Susanne. We are waiting.
Bye bye.
Bye.
So,
Okay, we're moving back, I think, to the next one, which should
this
be-
one.
Yes, I mean, here's a few pictures that I want to illustrate what I was talking. So this is from this morning. The price volatility. You see down the price in the middle of the day around now is 0 or near 0. And then it will jump in the evening. These are day ahead prices to 250. Sometimes it goes to 300-400, even to 1,000 euros per megawatt hour. And this, on one hand, this is a problem. No question about that. It scares many people, and also it's a communication problem because somebody says electricity is 1,000 euros per megawatt hour, and that's a disaster. So that's not exactly the case. It is a problem that is solvable, and we have to work on that. And one thing that this picture is doing, it's incentivizing investment in storage, and it's also incentivizing flexibility and demand side response. So we must look at this volatility from both perspectives. One is that it's a problem, and the other it's an investment opportunity. So the next one, please. So where the volatility comes from, this is again a couple of hours ago, the generation of electricity, again in Bulgaria. The big red thing is solar. So 50%, it's, I think, is it still, yes, it's still winter, I think, today. And 50% of national generation, dispatchable generation is solar. It will decline later, but it's very interesting that then when it declines, the hydro is released. And a very, very important role of solar is that it saves water. So instead of the hydro producing all the time electricity and then we run out of water, it saves water so that water is also starting to push the gas out. So the next one, please. So this is the wind-solar complementarity, and this is Greece, where Greece developed solar, Greece developed wind. So Bulgaria developed solar, Hungary developed solar, underdeveloped wind. And that's what we're missing. You can see very clearly the yellow is solar, this funny green thing is wind. This is just a typical week, or not very, very typical, but 2-3 weeks ago, a picture, and the black line is the consumption. It's an interesting fact that Greece, for the first time last year, since 2020, I think, became an exporter of electricity, and that's what we need. We need more. We need complementarity, and then we have a stable, more stable and sufficient supply. And when you have supply, we all know a little bit of economics, then prices go down. The next one, please. This is a very, very interesting thing. So this is at the same week, the generation in Greece and the generation in Belgium. As you know, Belgium has quite a lot of wind, but there is no wind here, and there is a lot of wind in Greece. There are a couple of studies, very interesting, that studied this complementarity between Southeast Europe and North Europe, that show that not all the time, but very often when it's windy in the south and southeast, I mean Southeast Europe, there is not sufficient wind in the north and the northwest, and the other way around. When the wind subsides in Southeast Europe, there is quite a lot of wind in the northwest. So this is quite an obvious case for grid development and interconnection, and this is something that I think must be studied. Obviously, this will not solve the problem for electricity prices this year and next year. It's a long-term thing, but I want to illustrate it. Next one, please. And let's think also a little bit big. I mentioned that we have to think about the longer future, and we must think about creating new market areas. So they're not exactly new markets because we integrate markets somehow, but building infrastructure that can create sort of market areas like, for instance, the Adriatic market, where there are 2 HVDC cables between Montenegro and Italy, and there is another one between Greece and Italy. But if we have 1 more or 2 more links, we will have quite a good functioning market between Southeast Europe and Italy. The same thing goes with Ukraine. I was asking that's why I was asking this question about the grid development, but also all the technicalities that will make Ukraine better connected and with the rest of Europe. All these lines are actually projects that are discussed. So there is a discussion about this project that will capture the wind generation in Caspian Sea, take it across the Black Sea. Hungary was quite active in this. Bulgaria joined this discussion at a later stage. There is also, now with the change of the situation in Syria, there is also a project promoted in the past by Chinese, actually, of building grid between Saudi Arabia and Bulgaria, actually going through Turkey. And the other ones across the Mediterranean are also discussed. And some of these projects are recognized projects of common interest. So if we have to think for a long-term future, I think this is something that we have to have in mind. So the next one, please. So 2 slides for sort of conclusions. One, first, what doesn't work to lower in a sustainable way the prices? Flat subsidies, price caps. I mean, that's a killer. Profit restrictions. So this is in Bulgaria. So there is a cap. 150 euros is the cap for renewable energy that can sell its electricity. Again, that has to be removed. It doesn't work. It suppresses everything any investments. Market closure, again, at some point Bulgaria came close to a serious crisis, closed the market. Years after that, we can't fix the problem. Bulgaria, Romania, other countries are very, very good at getting the ETS revenue and sending it back to the coal power plants. I mean, not directly, but through subsidizing electricity prices, this, that, and the other, and that's the result. When it comes to building retrofit and energy efficiency, very important, but 100% subsidies, grants is another killer. Must not be allowed. Bulgaria is a champion in that. New nuclear, I'm not against nuclear, even in some way I'm a fan of nuclear, but it's expensive. Nobody can convince me that it can have any effect before 2040, probably even later. And this is time when we have absolutely no idea what the energy system will be. In the last 5 years, the energy system transformed completely. So in another 15 years, it will transform 5 times. So we are betting on very expensive technology, whether it's American. At the moment, US is pushing very, very hard for nuclear, but whether it's US, whether it's Russian, whether it's whatever, just as technology, I don't see any impact apart from spending public money. There is another kind of thing. Hydrogen-ready infrastructure doesn't work. There is no such thing, hydrogen-ready infrastructure. Gas and hydrogen will move in different directions through different infrastructures. So this is, again, sort of gas industry trick. And again, gas as a transitional fuel doesn't work. So, and finally, what might work? The next one. Okay. So if we have to, if I have to write a suggestion or a white paper on for energy strategy, which will affect the in short term and in longer term energy price in the region, the first thing I would say, encourage further solar expansion. At the moment, there are lots of voices that are saying, oh, zero prices, cannibalization, too much solar creates problems for the grid. Let investors take the risk. Allow them to build as much as they want. They are doing it. They're taking the risk. They're building it. That's the way. Don't stop them. And also the same goes for batteries. Huge problem is the delay of wind in the region. It has to be pushed, not just allowed. The solar should be allowed to expand, but we should remove barriers and actively push wind because it complements very well solar. We must allow the market signals to work. If we start suppressing the market signals, we need different ways of addressing social issues. There are lots of policies. It's not by killing the market. Efficiency in every form, optimization, flexibility, demand-side management, all that could be pushed, and that could have even effect at a very, very short time. I spoke already about the role of the natural gas. We have to reduce the role of natural gas in setting up the prices. And when it comes to liberalizing the market, we have to couple it with targeted support for energy poverty. And Cristina, I think you were talking about industries, how to support. We can support strategic sectors. If we say, okay, defense sector is strategic, or chemical industry, or this and the other, then we can target specific support, but not lower the prices everywhere and kill the market signals. Artificial intelligence is here. It's very active. It's not just a fun or trendy story that everybody's talking. It could be deployed immediately in energy management. again, we should fast forward the coupling of Western Balkans, and of course build grids on every level, and to avoid bottlenecks. And again, the science fiction a little bit to plan for the HVDC future. So these are kind of my 10 points for kind of a strategy for the region. None of them will lower the prices immediately, but I think this is the way. Allow market to work, and then compensate anybody who might be suffering. So separate the social policies from the market development, market operation, and investment.
Thank you so much, Julian, for sharing this insightful views with us. I'm asking our audience if you have any questions. Please.
The presentation was very good. I saw the graphs. You saw the consumption of gas is going down, and also on the conclusion, we saw that you said about sectors. I work as Secretary of State for Development, and we supported the idea of not focusing on the general target of reducing gas, starting a little bit different to see the procedures, the processes and sectors where we have to set a target for this, because as we know, in the future we'll start a new step. We know the rearm process, and it's very hard in the defense industry to replace the gas. And what do you think in the future, having this context of defense, will have increasing consumption of gas? Are we able to replace it with I don't know, green energy? This part of industry, and also the second question. I agree with that. Hydrogen ready infrastructure, and we are far away from that point. Of artificial intelligence in energy, it's clear it's not just a trend. It's not just a tech scam of for conferences and things like that. But where do you see a need for artificial intelligence? For example, I see a need for of prediction of consumptions on different sectors. Do you see other application?
I mean, on the gas and defense industry, I wouldn't advocate reducing gas for the sake of reducing gas and leaving the defense industry suffering. I mean, defense security is the absolute priority. It's number one, especially we see now in this situation. What I'm saying, however, is that we can find combination of these priorities. Generally, the defense sector is hugely interested in energy efficiency. Simple reason is that, I mean, depends on the war, but in many wars, half of the casualties happen when fuel is transported from the base to the front line. So higher the efficiency, more independent the unit is, less casualties that mean less exposed it is to the enemy. So in that sense, even I think in Hungary a few years ago, there was a NATO exercise, solar for defense. I mean, military exercise using solar and electricity and electric vehicles to see how they could be autonomous. So I mean, in that direction, we can develop quite a lot of our research. The research and development there, we can put quite a lot of money, because if we just increase our defense budget, just put a lot more money and say, so, well, what are we going to do now? Then we take this money and go to America to buy F-16 and F-35, and then Trump says, no, you can't do offending things to Putin because he's my friend. So it's we have to develop our own defense industry. So
Yes,
that's the thing. And obviously, the defense industry is part of the defense industry is energy consuming. So we have to see whether we can replace gas with electrification and where it makes sense from price point of view, but also from security point of view. Because at the moment, the only democratic gas that comes in Europe seems to be from Norway, in Romania. We'll see after the election. On AI, I think in demand response could play a huge role, because I mean AI can write programs. So I can't write programs, but I can go into ChatGPT and say, well, write me a program for this and this, and it will write me a program right in front of me. So the software that will, and the program that will start controlling the temperature, the light here in this building, the fridge, could be very quickly developed through AI. Prediction is very important also, and all the other areas. Through AI, we can optimize any system, and this is where we have to start searching for the opportunities.
Okay, are there any other questions? Then I have a question, Julian.
What is lunch?
Sorry.
Where's lunch?
Where's lunch? No, I pretty much share your ideas and points of view. But I have a remark on not considering gas as a transitional fuel. As you said, Romania is a big producer of gas, is the first one in the EU now. And we have in our national strategies gas as a transitional fuel, and we started some investments even in power generation with gas. And for us is pretty crucial because well, we have new reserves in the Black Sea that will be extracted, and it will contribute to power generation and to our economy. Even if there is this ongoing discussion on decoupling pricing from gas, we didn't come up really with a solution so far. Well, it's just investing more in renewables and storage. Of course, we are looking at CCS as well in Romania, and this is the bet of our industry to decarbonize. But if we are on this path, in the region, we will still have an influence of gas in the price of electricity. So how do you see this?
Well, I would separate the gas as a transitional fuel, the role of gas, and the extraction of gas. So probably Europe needs, at the moment, more European gas, because it would be good if we completely stop the Russian gas, if we reduce the LNG dependency, and that's a niche that is opening for European gas. But the market is open. So the idea, I see that in Bulgaria very often, if we discover gas, all our problems will be solved. No, it will not be solved, because there is an open market. I mean, we have to close the market of Bulgaria and extract gas and do something with gas. But we don't do that. What we do, we discover gas and we put it in the pipelines. It goes to hubs and markets, and it goes around everywhere. The same is with electricity. So we are not, there is no such thing, even I say sometimes, annoying people in nationalists in Bulgaria, there's no such thing as national energy system. I mean, it's not national, it's European, and it's not because of some sentimental views about Europe, just the market is integrated. I mean, the electricity market is fully integrated, the gas market is sort of integrated. But so in that sense, I think if you find more gas in the Black Sea, that should not be targeted to say, okay, we found gas, because we found gas, we'll replace coal with gas. Because we found gas, we'll put it on the market. And then with the market, I mean, that will be income for Romania, for Romanian companies, or for whatever companies are extracting it. And that's a separate thing. The thing about replacing coal with gas is very kind of economic thing. So I'm not saying that it shouldn't be transitional fuel. What I'm saying that it is not. I mean, if you look at data, I think the only two countries in the last 10 years which have a correlation between declining coal and increasing gas are Greece and North Macedonia. I mean, North Macedonia, tiny little small country, but they decided to generate electricity with gas, and they had a very, very sudden, very aggressive and ambitious date for closing coal. Greece, the same thing. Suddenly, Mitsotakis came and said, 2028, we're closing all coal power. Well, it doesn't work exactly like that. Great, but if you have to close it suddenly, then gas goes up. But otherwise, even in Germany and Europe as a whole, we see coal is completely collapsing and gas is also declining. So there is no, you can't say that one is replacing the other. It's obvious that, and this is the market. It's not that, this is not a policy thing, it's the market. Well, market in which the carbon price is included, which plays a role, not so dramatic, but it does play a role. The other thing is that gas investment is risky for many reasons. And one of them is that gas emissions are more or less the same as coal emissions. If you take gas from extraction to burning, that's the same thing as burning coal, which means that in 5 years' time, if COP continues to work, if the global climate policies continue to develop, what we'll see is that this whole chain will be priced and taxed, and the CO2 emissions for coal and the CO2 emissions for gas will be more or less the same. So it's a risk. It's not at the moment, that's not the case. So I'm only saying that replacing one on the other with the other just on the basis that we have gas, or gas is a transitional fuel, takes big risk. I mean, if this risk is with public money, we don't feel it because wasting public money is a sport that we're very good at. But otherwise,
Good.
Okay.
thank you very much.
So thank you very much to our speakers. Thank you for your questions and your contributions. Thank you, Rebeka, for co-moderating this session with me, and Jan for your support. And there's only one thing left to say.
Lunch.
Yeah,
Let's go for lunch.
let's go for lunch, and thank you.
Apologies
Thank you,
for
Cristina.
late lunch.
Thanks a lot. Great workshop.